Beijing, China unveils a garden expo that is unlike any other in the world. What green messages does Chinese President Xi Jinping hope to plant with the millions who will visit this year? Speaking of which, the acting chief of the United Nations Environment Program will then describe her organization's relationship with China. What does she think the country can do to advance green goals among its partners throughout the Belt and Road Initiative? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. The so-called Olympic Games of gardening culture and horticultural science has kicked off in China near the foot of the Great Wall itself. The 2019 Beijing International Horticultural Expo is truly of epic proportion, roughly the size of 500 football pitches, showcasing 1,000 variety of flowers from across China and diverse greenery from dozens of other countries. On Sunday, Chinese President Xi Jinping opened the Expo by touting it as an important opportunity to promote ecological civilization to the millions of people expected to visit in the coming months. Some skeptics, however, see the Expo as merely another exercise of Chinese soft power, with its slogan of "Live Green, Live Better," aimed to project a more humanistic China. What's the significance of China hosting such an event? I'm pleased to be joined in the studio by Wen Zhe, director of the Expo's Botanic Garden project, and Viktor, Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization think tank. Thank you for joining us here, to both of you. Now let's start with the key messages of President Xi's speech as he was opening the Expo. He highlighted the following points, such as to create an ecological civilization, to balance the Earth ecological system, to enhance the system of environmental governance, and to emphasize the building of a community of shared future for humankind. So, Viktor, what do you think Chinese President Xi is trying to plant as seeds into the minds of the spectator? And what do we know about the goal of China hosting this expo?
Well, this Horticultural Expo is truly a very spectacular event, and it attracts attention around the world. And I think President Xi Jinping is absolutely right in emphasizing the ecological development, meaning economic development cannot be achieved by sacrificing environmental protection. And we need to really nurture the nature, for example, plant trees and greenery to make sure that people can live in a civilized and environmentally clean and clear condition. And I think this will really urge the Chinese people to pay more attention to environmental protection, and also will steer the development in China onto a new path. Ecological civilization. That's a very important message.
Zhe, let me go to you. You are a first-hand eyewitness to this event. Basically, I understand you've spent 1 year preparing for one of the pavilions. Tell us a little bit about the rough outlay of this expo park, and what is your basic responsibility?
Okay, so there are 4 pavilions in the park. The China Pavilion, the International Pavilion, the Life and Experience Pavilion, and also the Botanic Pavilion. And I'm in charge of the project construction in the Botanic Pavilion. And in the Botanic Pavilion, there is a 3,000 square meter greenhouse. And we have 1,000 species of trees. And in total, we moved in 20,000 trees and flowers in the greenhouse.
So are these trees and flowers all coming from different parts of China? And how long did it take to move them in? What were the challenges there?
Okay, so some of the trees and flowers originate from like foreign countries. But like 5 years ago, they moved in China, and they live in the tropical area in China. Before October last year, we moved 100 trees in the greenhouse. And like usually it spends more than 1 week to move a tree from like Yunnan, Fujian, and Shenzhen.
In southern China?
Yes.
Back to Beijing in northern China?
Yes. The reason why we moved it in before October is that the trees need like 30 degrees to to survive in such a cold weather in Beijing. So we tried very hard to make it faster and move in before the temperature goes down in the winter.
But what is the message, or what do you want a spectator to walk away with, besides pollens, besides some leaves, or the nice memories of trees and of the exotic plants? What do you want your visitors to take home?
I think besides the beautiful flowers and trees, we want people to know they need to protect the environment and they need to keep harmonious with the trees and plants. For example, we have a sculpture on rooftop. It is called Molly and his family. Molly is a small giraffe, and all the giraffes are made of Molavi. The tree is named Molavi.
Okay.
It's from the Philippines. In like 50 years ago, Molavi had been cut down and it almost extinct. So we found some of the trees. I mean the pieces of the materials which cut down like 50 years ago to make a sculpture to remind people of this kind of tree and ask people to protect it.
It's a way of educating people about preserving the fauna and flora. Victor, however, it seems that in some Western media reports there's no mention about that. Basically, what they're trying to dig out is the goal behind, or the motivations behind China hosting such an expo, saying, look, a lot of money is being spent, what's the point? Or maybe China is only trying to project its soft power using some kind of flower diplomacy, and that alone. What is your take? What is your reaction to such
No, I think such media reports are barking at the wrong tree. I think China is very clear. This is the largest horticultural expo in history, and in terms of the number of countries participating in this event, as well as the expected 60 million people visiting the expo for about 6 months to come. This is all breaking all the historical record. And I think the message is also unprecedented. I think the fact that President Xi Jinping opened the expo together with about a dozen heads of state and heads of government of other countries, as well as international organizations, really speak loudly to the need of environmental protection. This is not just flower diplomacy, and if diplomacy is focused on promoting environmental protection, I think this is really the right thing for diplomacy to devote itself, because mankind does need a better environment, a more sustainable development, and environmental protection going forward will be the key to economic development. So I think China is doing the right thing, and all the visitors hopefully will walk away with the right message of environmental protection.
How much is China investing in green development, and with what urgency? Basically, if you look at the live shows, unfortunately, it's a smoggy day, right? So what kind of urgency is China investing in green development? Is China walking the walk or just talking the talk?
I think there is no limit as to how China can do or should do in terms of green development. Several years ago, for about 15 years ago, for example, China was still struggling with whether we need to achieve development or whether we can achieve environmental protection without sacrificing economic development. But now I think China is very clear in one thing, and there is very high degree of consensus. That is, we cannot achieve meaningful economic development by sacrificing on the economic protection. And economic development and environmental protection should happen at the same time. And therefore, I think the people need to be mobilized, and we need to have a higher sense of conscientiousness in environmental protection. And I think we all need to spend more, and in terms of our resources as well as our time for environmental protection.
President Xi highlighted the importance of international collaboration. He was talking about a community of a shared future for humankind. Basically, fauna and flora, plants have no borders, or environment has no borders, or pollution has no border. So in the Expo Garden, what kind of actions? What kind of designs have been put in place to highlight international collaboration, not just in addressing ecological challenges or environmental protection, but also exchanges between countries, between gardens from different countries, so that you learn the best practices from each other?
Okay. I think in the Botanic Garden, we have invited like Japanese designers, the American designers, and also the British designers to participate in. Like in the first step of the whole tour, we have a laser lighting show, which is from the Team Lab. It's a Japanese team that they designed the mangrove into the laser lighting, and it shows the whole process of a seed become a tree, and then the tree and the people move down from the tree to the root to the deep sea, and it shows the whole process of how the mangrove grow in the environment and how it live with the animals around it.
How about interactive experiences for children? Is there an emphasis to let the younger generation foster a green mind from an early age?
Yes, of course. On the second floor, we have a children activity area that after the touring around the Q Garden, scientific drawing, then they can have like gifts and teaching materials to learn more about the plants, and also they can draw on the table to know more kinds of flowers and plants.
There's this British garden called Kew Garden. They're also moving their expertise, their flowers overseas for the very first time. Tell us a little bit about that, very briefly.
Okay, so for this time, this is the first time that they show 100 pieces of drawings in the Botanic Garden, and all these are from like 200 years ago, and all these drawings tells the story between like the Chinese trees, the Japanese trees, and some of the British people brought them back to the Britain, and they record how the flower and plants look
basically
like.
These are the seeds, right, of green development that will, although they're small, but they will probably blossom in a very near future. Finally, Victor, very briefly, is it a coincidence that the Horticultural Expo and the Belt and Road Summit kind of coincided with each other?
Well, I think this is a very happy and very pleasant coincidence indeed, because the Horticultural Expo started immediately after the successful conclusion of the One Belt One Road
between these two
summit. I think this is well planned, and they choose the best timing for the Belt and Road Summit, as well as the opening of the Horticultural Expo. And also for the Horticultural Expo, they need to have a very good timing, because this is very much related to the weather, to the general environmental condition, etc. So this is truly a very happy coincidence, I would say.
What is really the message that China wants to tell the various state leaders who are participating in the Belt and Road Initiative, where there is one thematic discussion on climate change, and then they also go and witness this Chinese demonstration, let's say, of the will to further green development? What's the implication for the Belt and Road Initiative?
Well, I would say the Belt and Road Initiative is very much focusing on connectivity and infrastructure. But on the other hand, I think China is also sharing its experience with the world community that green development, environmental protection are the key to development. And in terms of environmental protection, there is only one world, one globe, and no one can hide behind its national walls, for example. And China, as well as all the countries participating in the Belt and Road Initiative, need to, as you said, talk the right talk and walk the right walk. And this Horticultural Expo is just example of walking the right walk.
Thank you so much. My guests, Wen Zhe, Director of the Expo's Botanic Garden Project, and Victor Gao, Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization. We will take a short break, and when we come back, the UN's top environmental official lays out her vision for cooperation with the world's second largest economy. Stay with us.